Marlowe, and we still are at Talking Missions. And we're still at Mission Fest in Edmonton, Alberta, Canada. And right now we're talking to Marlowe Janke.
Janke, yes.
Janke, okay. I'm always getting everybody else's last name wrong, you know. But that's okay. People love me anyways. So we're going to be talking to Marlowe here, and we're going to be just sharing with him. You're going to get about as much information I got. We had about 8 seconds to kind of communicate, so I don't really know much about Marlowe as of yet, but I will in a short bit. Also, Men for Missions, I don't know much about yet, but I'm going to also know in a short bit, just along with you. So we're going to learn together. So Marlowe, tell us, how did you get involved with Men for Missions?
Well, I got involved through, it's a long story. Can I just start at my birth here a little bit?
Sure, absolutely.
My birth mother was 16 years old.
Okay.
And she didn't know what to do in 1953 when I was born.
Okay.
So she gave me up for adoption, which was probably the toughest decision of her life.
Oh, I bet.
So she did that, and I was adopted by a Christian family who couldn't have children.
Okay.
And so that was where my start was. When I was growing up as a little kid, we have all these friends of my parents that would come and visit them.
Okay.
And as they came to visit, they would tell all these exciting stories, you know, about places around the world that I never even heard of. And all of a sudden, you know, as I get a little bit older, I realize that these are, you know, Christian workers are working in Haiti and in Cuba and in Colombia and in India and in places in Africa.
Wow.
And so as we had the missions conference in our local churches, these people would come visit with us.
Cool.
For a meal, or sometimes they'd stay for a whole week.
Right.
And so that was my introduction to not just Men for Missions, but missions in general around the world, and people who were involved in it.
Right.
When I was about 17 years old, in high school, grade 12, I think it was, I had some of the missionaries that came by said, you know, we've got an opportunity with our mission, if you want to join with us, to spend a whole summer in a country of your choice. Could be Japan, could be Colombia, could be Brazil. I chose Haiti. Ended up in Haiti for 3 months between my first and second year of Bible college. And so now that was an exciting time. And of course, God broke my heart there. I did a lot of different things from medical things to maintenance to being on the radio there. They interviewed me on the radio a few times. And not just me, but others as well. There was 9 of us, all within 3 years of each other, from various parts of Canada and the United States. And we all were down there doing our different jobs. So that was really my start, because One Mission Society is our parent organization, and that was through the youth department of the One Mission Society. But so it broke my heart, and I thought, man, I'm called to be in ministry somewhere here, and maybe Haiti's the place. I was hoping that was the place. And I really was. I have scripture that the Lord showed me during those years, not just those times those days I was in Haiti, but even afterwards. And then later on, when I was trying to figure out what I was going to do next after I finished school, there was a scripture from Ezekiel which said, I don't want you to go to a place where you can't understand the language. I thought, man, this is a little bit more difficult. It's a contrary thing. So I went to my Bible college president and said, you know, what does this mean? So we had a good conversation. Basically, it boiled down to this. You know a little bit about Men for Missions? I said, yeah, I know a little bit about Men for Missions. And he said, why don't you get involved in that? And so I did. And continued on school, and went to, did some business, got into business, and so that's what I did. And so, but I've always been involved with the Men for Missions, especially the country of Haiti, Cuba, and is the ones that I've kind of specialized or have gone to mostly. And so that's how I've been involved with Men for Missions.
Was it, now you had a passion for Haiti.
Yes.
And then the Holy Spirit's kind of saying, I'm not calling you to full-time Haiti. How did you find that?
You know, we had let me go back to when I was in Haiti. We had the director, the Haiti mission director at that time in Haiti, who was a busy man. But he took always 2 hours out every Friday morning and gave us a devotional. And I don't know any of his devotionals except the last one. And the last one was the man that Jesus healed that had all the demons. And he was ready to jump in the boat with him. But as he was probably sitting in the boat waiting for the others to come in, Jesus said, listen, I've already got 12 men. I don't need a 13th one.
Right.
But I need one, only one, to stay home.
Right.
And to proclaim the good news here. And tell your friends and family what great things God has done for you. Right. So I've clung on to that ever since. That was a verse that I got about 2 years after I was in Haiti. But I realized also that was the same verse that the director spoke on. Wow. The last time I had talked to him in Haiti. Wow. And so I thought, man, that really fit well together. Yeah. And I was thinking about how that works. And so that's basically how it evolved. So I've always had a passion, and Men for Missions has been the vehicle that we've used. We know there's others that are doing the same thing we're doing now, but it's a lot of short-term missions trips. Right. And we've built radio stations and schools and churches and clinics, and we've been involved in evangelism, and prayer teams have gone out. Medical teams have gone out. So we've been involved in a lot of different things.
So what is Men for Missions?
It's a group of men, all lay people, who get together and meet twice a year in Canada. Right. Decide what our projects are going to be around the world. Okay. In Canada right now, we're basically working in Colombia. Okay. Haiti, Cuba, and a little bit in Ecuador. Okay. We also, of course, send people around the world to China, places in Africa, Europe, and a number of places, obviously, in South America. Right. And so we've been doing, we do projects, so we raise money, we send up a national project. So so this year our national project is to raise money for Haiti in the medical department, getting medications down to our clinic, which we built many years ago, into Haiti. And so that's one of the things that we do. We also, of course, we represent Men for Missions and the Lord at Mission Fest and at Leadership Prayer Breakfast. We go to wherever we're asked to speak. We go. And when we're at Mission Fest, obviously we do a seminar and maybe we'll speak in a church if they ask us someplace. So we have a lot of opportunities. We also bring nationals, especially from other countries. A year ago, we had Dr. Rodney, a medical doctor, who sees about 150 missionaries a day. Wow. Up to 150 missionaries a day in Haiti. Yeah. And so we had him, we had him in Winnipeg Mission Fest, we had him here in Edmonton at Alberta Mission Fest, and a few other places all in between. Introducing him to a lot of business people, because I'm in business still. I'm a layman, still have a business in Calgary.
So you're doing this.
Do that.
Sorry, just for 1 second. But you're not full-time, though it's almost probably feels like you're full-time and full-time, right? You got a business, you run that, and I've run my own business. I know the responsibility. Businesses aren't 9 to 5. There's a lot of responsibility, their work and stuff like that, and you're doing this as well. Right. And so there must be a lot of energy involved there, like a lot of time required of you and your family and things like that. Tell us a little bit about that. Okay, so that's right. So we do have a business, and it's a family business. I work together with my 2 brother-in-laws, 2 sister-in-laws, and my wife. Okay. So 6 of us are in the business. Right. We have a lot of directors meetings, a lot of shareholders meetings, and we're all about the same age. We're getting closer to this retirement, the thing they call retirement. We still have a lot of energy. Right. And so, but we have some of our children working in the business. Okay. I have 2 nephews and I have 2 daughters, both in the business, and we have all of our management team in place, as well as all the people underneath. So the management really runs the company now. Okay. The managers run the company, and we're just along for support as directors and guidance as shareholders. Okay. But so let me ask you, because you've been involved with Men's for Missions for quite some time, correct? And now you're a director, so now you got more responsibility. But now you have a little bit more time, is kind of what I'm understanding. Yeah. So, but before you had the more time, you're raising a family, and you had Men's for Missions. How did you find that a difficult time? I probably worked 10%, maybe even less, with Men for Missions. Okay. So I had to go to 2 meetings. I was required to go, if I wanted to be on their board, which they call the cabinet, I had to go to 2 meetings a year. One in the western side of the country of Canada, one in the eastern side. Okay. So that's really all I had to do. Right. And I remember when I said, I don't know how much I can do in my local area. Right, right. And a wise man on there who had been on there for quite a few years said to me, he says,
whatever you do is more than we have now. Not saying we don't have anything going on in your area right now, but it's going to be more than what we're doing there now, whatever you do.
Right.
So I thought that was interesting.
That's good advice.
So you can either, it's one of those things, you can get involved with men for missions, and you can either just put your big toe in the water, or you can just jump off the diving board and go headlong into the water. So there's various levels that you can work on, obviously.
So serving the Lord in this capacity and raising your family, how did you find that? Did you find that as a benefit for your family?
Well, I have a good wife that really helps with a lot of that.
Okay.
We had 2 girls, and so they got to meet a lot of different people from a lot of different countries, just like I did when I was younger. When they got to be about high school age, I believe, we took them both on a mission trip into Cuba, and it changed their lives. Since then, both of them have been to El Salvador, even without us, and so it's been a good learning experience for all concerned, of course. But I guess it's all about balance.
Right.
Probably my work took more time when my kids were growing up, so I spent more time at work than I'm not sure if I spent more time at work than at home. I probably did, as many of us do with businesses. But we always try to be involved in the church, spend at least a certain percentage of our time in church. I don't want to say 10% because it might have been only 5, but we had responsibilities in church, from teaching Sunday school to other things. And I've always thought, well, if we can do that, we can squeeze in something around the world, and that's what Men for Missions was, the vehicle that we used in order to do that. And I remember leaving the kids at home when they were probably in grade 11 or 12, and we spent, which was the first time we left them at home alone, and we went over to, they might have been a little bit older, we went over to China and spent a couple of weeks in China with Men for Missions, and that was, if I thought Haiti was something, China was even more interesting. Of course, a communist country, and a lot of, but the church was growing, and that was probably about 15 or so years ago that we were there. And so there again, so we're talking about the family. It's been really rewarding, and we can see how that they help with different projects around the world. Sometimes with us, sometimes on their own. And they just so I think it is a benefit that way. But it's a balancing act.
It is.
To
that's
make
not
it all work during the younger years.
When you said the balance, and it's like, I remember, I don't hear it so much anymore. I remember for a season there was something like, well, there has to be balance. And the unfortunate part is most people meant it as in balance between righteousness and unrighteousness. Is really what they meant, between the world and between God. And that's not what balance means. Really, you're talking about there about family care and what you actually do, right?
That's right.
It just kind of clicked in my mind. I remember hearing that. I wasn't even a mature Christian. I'm thinking, I think I get what you guys are saying. But that's awesome. So tell us about, now you've been working with Men for Missions, Men for Missions. Tell us about some of the stories, some of the guys you've been working with. What have you been seeing happening with some of these guys individually?
Well, some of the guys that were involved when I first started, when I was like 25 years old. I think I was about closer to 30 when I was on the cabinet for the first time. Some of those guys, of course, decided to change their address. They haven't decided, but they're in heaven today. A lot of them have passed away. And so when you think back on some of the people that just you prayed with, and you went on trips with, and you worked together with, now I'm getting to that age where I'm really thinking more about some of those kind of things, as I'm doing the same thing with younger guys. And so I'm just trying. It's been exciting to see how God worked through those people, and have given me the example that I can pass on to the next generation. Well,
let me ask you there. Did you think, okay, we'll go with somebody who influenced you and somebody you've been influencing. So let's go with somebody who influenced you first, somebody that was spoken to your life.
Sure. There was a guy that was on the cabinet with me for about 3 years, and he loved sports, and I love sports, so we had a lot of things in common. His kids were just a few years younger than me. They were almost the same age as I am, and they're still good friends of mine. But what really influenced me, I had to make the tough decision whether I was going to be on this cabinet or not. He lived in a different city close by, and a different church, but we were connected. And so. But I'll never forget when I went to probably the second meeting as a guest of Men for Missions cabinet, and there was the decision whether or not I should do this or not, or should get more involved or not get more involved. And he just took me, he bought me some coffee, and he sat me down, and he said, it's going to be whatever you decide is going to be the right decision. He says, and he told me what it meant to him to be on this cabinet. It gave him a perspective. He was a farmer, and he was involved in his church, but it gave him a different perspective on life,
right,
on the world, and the way to see God in other places.
Right.
And so you basically see the world the way God sees it, is the way he would tell you.
Yeah, yeah.
And so when he did that, and he put his arm around my shoulder and he said, let's pray.
Right.
Just like that, right?
Right.
And so I'll never forget that prayer, of course.
Right.
So that's probably one of the ones, as many were, that influenced me the most.
Yeah.
To make the decision to, yes, if I can do that, he could. He had been a little bit unwell.
Yeah.
Not sure what was the problem.
Yeah.
But not long after that, he was diagnosed with cancer. And he beat it.
Well.
But he beat it for about a year.
Okay.
And then cancer really set in, and we lost him.
Yeah.
And so, so today, I spend time with his son, a couple of his sons actually, play golf with them. I enjoy golf.
Right.
We go to golf tournaments where Men for Mission sponsors will help sponsor a golf tournament.
Right.
We'll bring a non-Christian along.
Right.
I've also had some golf games with his grandson, who never knew his grandfather. So he asked me all kinds of questions about how I saw his grandfather.
Cool.
So again, if I had to pin it down to one person, there's many, of course.
Right. Yeah, I get it.
As I pin it down to one person, that would be the one I would say. That's why I'm involved in missions.
Well, it's cool though when you say many, because it's that's something that I think we're really missing nowadays is the older men teaching the younger men.
Yes.
And same thing in the ladies too, the older women teaching the younger women. And but there's so much value in that. I was just talking to a young gal actually, and she's saying she's in YWAM, and she went to a base where there was a more mature people there, and she just, this is what I want.
Yeah.
I believe there's a lot of young people looking for that, looking for mentors, men who will stand up. And men and women who will stand up, and sounds like this is an opportunity. So, share with us somebody you brought under your wing, a young guy maybe you brought under your wing that now that you're in this position where the maturity is now come in.
Sure. So there's a couple of them. There's one in Vancouver who's maybe 10 years younger than I am only, and I had worked with his dad in Men for Missions. So his dad had an influence on him getting into Men for Missions. But however, we work really well together. So we're almost the same age, 10 years difference. But he still looks up to me and wants to know what I'm doing and how I'm doing it, and we can pray together anytime. It's somebody I trust. There's a few guys I have like that.
Yeah.
That if I'd have a problem, that's the trouble with some guys, or with most of us guys.
Yeah.
We don't have a good friend. Say we get into trouble. We don't have a friend that we can really confide in.
Yeah,
but because of Men for Missions and the connections we have, that's one of them. So he's an auctioneer out in Vancouver.
Okay.
And so we've been working together. Now he's on our cabinet. We've been working together for quite a while.
Cool.
And almost everything I do, I run it by him first.
Oh, really?
And say, well, what do you think of this? Or I'll write an article and I'll send it to him. What do you think? Should I change anything? He says, sometimes he'll say, change this or add that. But most of the time he says, no, run with it. And so it's just a sounding board almost.
Right.
So that's been good.
Yeah.
But the one I'm thinking about right now, who's still on our cabinet, and he's got 3 little boys.
Okay.
So we might have to give him a break because he lives in Halifax. He used to live in Alberta for a while. He grew up in Ontario.
Okay.
And but his dad was an abusive dad.
Okay.
So much so that he was the best. He was the best of the 4 kids. The other ones all have had problems, and his mother as well.
Yeah.
And so his mother, when he was a young teenager, couldn't handle him, put him in a foster care. And so he was brought up in foster care home, even though he had a mom and a dad.
Right.
And so, but so the mom had to leave her abusive situation. And so, thinking about all of that and how all that worked, I didn't know him until another Men for Missions guy in the Ottawa area called me up and he said, "I've got a step grandson that I'd like you to meet."
Yeah.
He's just moved to Calgary and he's 18 or 19 years old.
Yeah.
So he was just basically out of the what do you call it?
School?
Foster care.
Foster care program. Right.
Yeah, just out of that, trying to make it on his own. So he just needs some guidance and stuff. So I met him at a football game, invited him to a football game.
Okay.
We went to the game and got to know him, invited him over a few days later.
Yeah.
And he sort of adopted us and we kind of adopted him. Cool. And even though we didn't live in the same house, he ate all of our food. Yeah. Which was a great way to get rid of your leftovers. That's for sure.
You need an 18-year-old just kind of scoop it in there. Yeah.
So I was teaching Alpha at that time at our local church.
Yeah.
And so we invited him to come to that.
Okay.
And of course, you get a meal with Alpha.
Yeah, there you go.
And so that worked once a week very well for him. And then he would kind of, after a good meal and a hard work, because he worked in construction, a hard work day and a good meal, he kind of slept a little bit through the actual program of the Alpha.
Yeah.
But that really helped him, form his base for his Christian life.
Right.
And brand new Christian and all of that. So I've found, if there's one guy, I guess that it would be him now. And of course he's got like I said, married, young family, lives in Halifax. Yeah. And so it's a long ways away, but we still communicate and talk and pray together. So yeah, I would say that's one of them.
That's huge because over and over again we're talking about relationships, right? We can talk. Right. The tag is organizations, right? Because that's where different kinds of organizations. Yeah. But in those organizations are really people.
That's right.
Right, and that's really what we got to call it something. So the word is organization. We changed the word to organization to something else. It would still mean the same thing, right. And that word later on would become old. So, but we're an organization, but we got people, with their feelings, their emotions, their baggage, and you got brothers and sisters according to the organization, and we're bumping into each other. What does the scripture say? Iron sharpens iron.
Right.
You got the older bringing on to the younger. Sometimes older maturity in spiritual maturity as opposed to just age and numbers and things like that sometimes too. And so these things, what I'm hearing too from Men for Mission is not just groups of guys going down doing a project. That's a part of it. But, it's guys getting together with guys, and guys, sharing with one another, listening to each other, caring about one another, building relationships. That's what I'm hearing.
Right.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And part of what we do too is we have discipleship programs at home. So we'll have different people who will take on discipleship program for a season of time. Right. And they'll invite men who are Christians, men who maybe aren't Christians, men who are nominal Christians. You name it, they would come. So you get a small group of 6 to 10. And that's your group for 6 months, say. Right. And you work through a program. It's a discipleship program. Right. And then the whole idea is to try to, part of their discipleship program is to get them on the mission field. Right. So we've had people that have been doing this for a lot of years. Right. One of the guys that in Ontario who's been doing it, he's made a quote a while back, which I've never forgotten. Right. He said, 1 week, in this case he went to Haiti. 1 week in Haiti with some men is is just as good as 2 years of the discipleship program, a weekly discipleship program. Yeah. So that speaks volumes, but you're right. You get to see people in a different light, obviously.
You do. Tell us about one of your trips that we were on. What's one that kind of bounced out of your head, and tell us about your people there.
Oh, there's a lot of trips. Yeah. So let me tell you about one into Cuba. Okay. So we had started going into Cuba around 2001. Okay. I had never been to Cuba. I had friends from Cuba that lived in the city, good friends of ours. So I heard about the problems that were down there. Mm-hmm. So when I heard that we had an opportunity the Men for Missions could go into Cuba, I jumped on it pretty quick. Okay. And so we took a number of people down, but it's the one I guess I took where I took my 2 kids, my wife, and my mother. All right. So it was a 3-generational trip. Right. And not only that, but we had a few other construction guys, and most of them came with their wives, not all of them. Yeah. And we had 2 teams, a total of 24 people, 12 in each week. One week it was a demolition because we were tearing out a men's dormitory at the Bible Seminary. Okay. Tearing it out because it had clay pipes and the pipes were broken. Okay. And it was running into the basement. Oh, okay. So they couldn't use 6 showers, 6 toilets, and 6 sinks were unusable for quite a while. Right. I don't know how long, but it was quite a while. They said. So he said, if you could help us with that. Right. So I said we can try to help you with that. Yeah. So all I knew is I needed to get a plumber down there. So I talked to a friend of mine who was a plumber on his own money, on his own time. Yeah. He went down twice. Right. And he had the list of the things that he needed. Mm-hmm. He gave it to them to see what they can get into Cuba. Right. But you only get things in Cuba because it's a communist country when it's available. That's right. And so they had to buy some stuff early, keep it, and so on, and that's the way how it worked. We had to give them the funds to do it, obviously. Yep. And when it was all said and done, we came in for demolition, and we were going to be there in 3 days, I think, to start that. we got into the country 3 days early, and then we were going to start it. So we had to give them some more funds to buy the last of what they could get. But there were still a few things that they couldn't get.
Right.
And so we still had a week to try to get those few items.
Yeah.
Because we were the demolition crew, the first one.
Right.
So we tore the thing apart, and we worked with the national people, the students there, the professors there. They got their hands and everything dirty, just like the rest of us did.
Right.
And so that was an exciting time. That was a real bond with the people.
Right.
And so when we did that, got it all torn out. One of the older old-timers of the college there said to the one who was in charge, who brought us in, said, well, they got it all apart now. You got it this torn up. What a mess you've got. How are you going to get this fixed up? And this is never going to work. You're never going to make this thing work. And the guy just listened and just kind of quietly listened to him and didn't say much. And so anyway, the next week, we brought in, the demolition crew moved out. The next one came in. In between, though, the plumber who was down for both weeks. And in between, he said, I have to go back to Canada for a meeting. And he said, but I'm only going to be back for 2 days, and I'm going to come back before the other crew comes down. And because there's still some things they couldn't get into Cuba. They tried while we were down there and couldn't get it. So he came back, put the few items in the suitcase that he needed. Came back down, different fittings and so on. Came back down, only to find out when they were ready to put stuff together that some of the fittings were measured on the outside diameter, and others were measured on the inside diameter, so they didn't quite fit. So there was a man who had been into Cuba with me once before, and he was bringing his wife this time. And so he was coming down he was supposed to come down for the demolition part of it, but it didn't work. So they came down for the next week. And they said, now how are we going to get this to work? And this guy had been a machinist. And so he says, if you know where there's a lathe, I can make this work. They dusted off an old lathe that was like 70 years old, I think. I don't know, it was an old lathe. Dusted it off, oiled it up, got it to work. And within a few hours, all of a sudden, these fittings fit really well together. But he was supposed to come in the first week. And it didn't work, so he had to choose the second week. Isn't that amazing?
That is just the Lord making
Absolutely
things
amazing.
work, right?
That's
He's probably going, oh, shoot, I couldn't make it when I wanted to make it. It's like, well, this is still going to work. And this will be good. And so now it's like, he's the answer for the day. And
so that was a good 10 years ago. And I was there last year in Cuba. I thought, I better just go check and see if that stuff is still working. Sure enough, everything still works.
And so what did the leader say when he saw it all put back together again?
Well, he didn't say anything. So the old timer, he didn't say anything. He just, there's nothing he could say, right?
Well, it's
2
funny.
weeks it was done.
Because I do home renovations that's my day job. I do home renovations, and I'm always joking with people. It's just a joke, but I'm always joking with people. You get stuff torn apart. It's like, hey, now we're going to talk about the contract.
That's right.
It's a big mess.
Now you can see what you got to
Now we're going to talk about that. And, but it's true, because it does. Really, now I'm thinking kind of like, it's funny because, there are times in our lives when the Lord is doing the same thing. He's going to be doing some tear down to do some build up. But whenever there's a renovation and when it's done properly, by people who know what they're doing, the tear down looks bad and looks amazing when it's new. And that's what the Lord does. He does know what He's doing.
That's true.
And we're doing a tear down in our life and building back up.
Another thing we did in Haiti. I'll give you another story.
Okay, sure.
Another thing we did in Haiti. We did a connection with the United States Men for Missions, which are bigger than we are. But we wanted to build the radio station that had been built. Radio 4VH, Cape Haitian, Haiti, was old. The machines were old. The building was too small. They need to expand. They need to get bigger. So they asked Men for Missions to build a new radio station. So on a property out a little ways away, on a separate piece of property, they built a brand new radio station. We built a brand new radio station. And it was state of the art for that time, especially for Haiti. It was good. It was well done. The buildings took a while to get it all organized, and it was a multi-million-dollar project because we didn't just build the building, we also put new equipment in. We didn't just put new equipment in, we also had to put new towers up because the whole idea was to get better coverage across the country, which is full of valleys and mountains, and it's difficult to make it all work. And you have to have transmitters that run by diesel. You have to somehow you got to get the diesel up these mountains, and that's another problem. So all of these different things but we got it to work.
Right.
And so that was a multi-million-dollar project, but we have radios that we get from Galcom now. They look like this one right here.
Yeah, show that. You show this camera over here, get a good view of it.
Sure,
there.
it looks like this right here.
Yeah, yeah.
And so these radios are solar powered. There's a solar panel on the back.
Okay.
Solar powered, and they run the fixed tune to the Christian radio station, Radio 4 VEH, which we built.
Okay.
Then it also has a button where you press the button and it switches to the Bible.
Okay.
All of this in the language that people can understand. In
Right.
Haiti, in this case, it's Creole.
Right.
So that's what we did, is we still do,
Yep.
is we take these down. We have Haitians who actually are trained in evangelism. They go door to door to hand these out.
Right.
Not every door gets them, but every few doors get them.
Right.
Because you put this on outside, a few houses will hear about it.
Yeah.
So,
I know that, yeah.
so you don't do everyone, but the church does this. They're
Yeah.
working together with the church, local churches.
Yeah, yeah.
And the church follows up with everybody they meet, whether they accept the Lord through this presentation of this
Right,
or
right.
not.
Right, right.
They still get a radio.
Yeah, yeah.
If we choose to meet with them, and when we bring in people from the United States and Canada, we give our testimony. We go along with the group.
Yep.
And so we give our testimony, and it's
Right.
interpreted,
Yeah.
and we hand out a radio. That's the only two things we do.
Yeah.
They introduce the people to us. They say, we got people from Canada that want to speak,
Yeah.
tell you their story.
Yeah.
Would you be interested? Of course
Yeah.
they are.
Yeah.
And then in the end, they'll get a radio, but they're also asked if they want to accept Jesus as their Savior.
Yeah, yeah.
And some do, obviously, and some don't.
Yeah, yeah.
So that's always an exciting thing.
It is.
Either way.
Yeah.
And so you give them a radio.
Yeah, yeah.
And again, the church follows up with all of them,
Yeah.
and we've been doing many of these over the last number of
Cool.
years, and it's been very, very good. So we've been walking dusty roads
Yeah.
with the Haitians, sweating a lot more than they are sweating, of
Yeah.
course.
Yeah.
It's been working.
Yeah, yeah,
Working
getting
well.
used to that heat,
Yes.
right?
Yeah.
So that's cool. So if a person joins Men for Missions, they get a chance to actually meet the culture. They get a chance to meet the people. They get a chance to work and serve. And obviously, not everyone has to be a carpenter or a machinist, but just people willing to come and serve and work and learn and grow and build relationships.
Absolutely. That's
Yeah.
exactly right. And we have medical teams and prayer teams for those who don't want to or can't
Right.
do construction anymore.
Right.
So we have other like the medical evangelistic prayer all of those.
Right.
And we go to about 60 different. We can go to about 60 different countries around the world,
Okay.
including Israel, places in Hungary, in Europe,
Yeah.
Asia. Of course,
Yeah.
I've been to China.
Yeah.
A number of different places we can go. It's an exciting what's happened. Interesting enough, though, you might have heard in 2010, Haiti had a big earthquake.
Yes.
So just prior to the earthquake, the year and a half before, we were building a brand new seminary as well. So we had built the radio station 10 years earlier, and now we were going to build a seminary.
Yeah.
So the seminary wasn't quite as costly. It was just over $1 million,
Yeah.
but still, you still had to raise $1 million.
That's a lot.
Those are the two biggest projects we've ever done in Men for Missions.
Yeah.
And most of that was done by Canada this time.
Okay.
And so we built it, and we had a big ceremony as a dedication service. A lot of people came from the United States and Canada, and came down for the dedication.
Cool.
And so that was just one day before the earthquake hit in 2010.
Wow.
So a lot of people were still there the next day
Yeah,
when the
yeah.
earthquake hit.
Yeah.
I happened to be in a meeting with Men for Missions down in the States, and I was in the airport ready to fly home.
Yeah.
And looking at the TV screens, and they were just giving the news, and they were just talking about that. So I stopped and prayed, of course, just uncertain what was going on or what was happening.
Yeah.
No news was getting in or out of the country.
Yeah, yeah.
And so, but that was it was an amazing thing to. So the TV was my prayer request reminder to pray for Haiti. Right?
Yeah.
And that's how our newspapers are. When you think about it,
Yeah.
that's the best prayer request place to get your prayer requests from is reading the newspaper.
Yeah.
So, but so it's always good to have your devotional time with a newspaper in your hand. Anyway, and the Bible. Of course.
Yeah.
So, but that's the way that worked.
Right.
So what we found though through that, because we had built both of those through. With Canadian and North American standards in construction, they withstood the earthquake. Both of them did, where other places in the area had fallen down. And other groups, other denominations, other churches who had Bible colleges, they couldn't use them.
Yeah.
Part or all of it wasn't there anymore.
Right.
So they came and actually used ours. Ours was brand new, and we had the opportunity to let them use our facilities as well. So they made it, balanced all that out, made it work.
Yeah.
So I thought, because there was a time when we were building this, I thought, man, we put a lot of money into Haiti over the years. Is it worth doing this?
Yeah.
You know, is it worth it? You know, we're raising a lot of money. It wasn't easy to go to the people and ask for all that, but it worked after a number of years. And so, but it was worth it when I realized the earthquake was one day after the
Lord knows, you know,
dedication.
when there's people of obedience, kind of, we need to do this, and people just in obedience.
Yeah.
And it's kind of like, there are times where we're kind of going, what are they doing? Why are we doing this? All the kind of, and but there's people stepping out in obedience,
That's
you know,
right.
and, you know, even I'm going to just say this church here, this is a larger church, they have a gymnasium, and a lot of times people will diss that kind of thing, right?
Yeah.
But I'm kind of going, well, we're having Missions Fest right here.
That's
I've
right.
I've had opportunity to come to this church and experience other things here. And they're utilizing it for other things for the sake of the gospel. And I mean, like this right here, right now, is pretty cool, honestly.
Yeah, that's right.
So let me ask you a little word of advice, because we were talking at the beginning about young men and older men and making those kind of connections. What's your advice to the older men for the younger men and the younger men for the older men? What would you say?
What we're finding is that younger men want to be discipled. They want to have connections with, they want to have a relationship with an older man in order to grow in their Christian life.
Right.
And so we're finding that people are looking for that.
Right.
So if we're just open, keeping our eyes open for those opportunities to make it work.
Right.
A number of things we do at home, because we don't do projects necessarily at home a lot, but what we do at home is we'll get together for a lunch and we'll invite a bunch of men, sometimes even couples, you know, depending on what we're trying to do, what we're trying to promote. Sure. We had our Dr. Rodney was here in Edmonton last year for Mission Fest, so we had him in a number of other different places. We went to Boston Pizza and used their back room, and we had men and women come and listen to him speak. And so, in different ages came and listened. So it was over lunchtime, and we could make that work. But we can also do it with just men and younger, older men and younger, well, variety of ages, and just get together for a lunchtime or an early breakfast or whatever it is. Don't take much of their time. Sometimes it's only a half an hour to an hour that you need, and just to share. And so that's what we found is effective for us. To do things like that. And there's a lot of men now who are 50, 55. Trying to get into the retirement, looking for things to do, looking for places to go, and so we're open for talking to them. I'm just finding that I don't go and promote myself, and I don't say, well, I can go speak, but everywhere I just say, what can come to Mission Fest ahead of time, obviously, right? Like, how can you use me? Where do you need help? And sometimes they need help with the children's ministry. And we've done that as men even. And sometimes they need help with a youth ministry. And we had Dr. Rodney speaking to the youth here last year. The youth just huddled around him afterwards. Right.
That's cool.
So we brought him in. He did all the work. he did the speaking. He did all of the, you know. We just brought him here. We paid for his way, brought him here, and he's raising funds for medication in Haiti. Right. So I guess that's what we're looking at is we're almost like a conduit. And a link between overseas countries or needs and what we have, all the wealth we have here. Right. And how we can make this thing work. Yesterday, my seminar was entitled, "You're Richer Than You Think." Right. So my bank account has been with Scotiabank for many years. And if you know anything about Scotiabank, and that's their slogan. And has been for a number of years. Okay. So a number of years ago, when I first started using that title, I went to my bank manager. I said, I'm not going to ask for permission. I'm going to ask for forgiveness. So he says, you go ahead, use it. And so I've been using it ever since. There you go. But that's, when you think about that, we are richer than we think. Yeah, we are. Not just with material blessings, but spiritual blessings too. And often when I write different people, on the bottom of my email or my letter, I'll say, may God bless you with all spiritual blessings. Right. We're not about the prosperity gospel. We're about blessings, however, of all sorts. And whatever the Lord chooses to use, just think about all of the spiritual blessings we use. I said earlier I was adopted. I mean, the whole idea of adoption, I wasn't just adopted once, I was adopted twice, second time into God's family. So when you think about that, I mean, adoption is part of God's plan, obviously. So and other things too. All the blessings, salvation blessing, and there's so many blessings that we can name. And maybe it's a good idea to list them sometime and see what how good God is to us.
That is amazing. Well, Marlowe, I just want to thank you for your time here and sharing with us and sharing your story. No, that was good. So, if you want to know more about Men for Missions, if you're an older man and you have a passion for, but I'm going to even say, if you don't have a passion, get a passion for helping to raise a younger man. If you're a younger man, reach out to an older man. Men with Missions might be your avenue. Maybe it's another avenue, but don't ignore those things. Those are important things. And a good start is, we're going to provide information on our YouTube channel. If you look down below, and if you look at our webpage, you'll see opportunities where you can get a hold of Men for Missions and get in touch with them, see what's available, and don't let that go. There's something about men raising men, and I think that's such an important thing, and I'm glad we were talking about that. So, to each and one of you, be blessed, and we will see you next time. Bye-bye.
Thank you.